This PPT Presents broadcast is brought to you by TechWitch Detroit. TechWitch Detroit for all your IT needs. Please visit us on the web at techwitchdetroit.com. TechWitch Detroit, we can help.
This episode of PPT Presents is brought to you by Pagan Pathways Temple. Pagan Pathways Temple is a 501c3 out of beautiful Madison Heights, Michigan. We offer classes, community outreach, ritual space, and a library available to our members. To find out more or to become a member, please go to paganpathwaystemple.org or patreon.com/paganpathwaystemple. Pagan Pathways Temple, growing in the old ways where all paths are open.
All of the opinions expressed on this show are those of the host or guests and do not necessarily express the views of Pagan Pathways Temple or its affiliates. Welcome to PPT Presents, episode 30. Thank you for listening. Today on PPT Presents, we have Cynthia Day and Fur on It Makes You Think. Today they'll be talking about the wonders of the moon. After that, we have Conversation Corner with the Gladstones. Today they'll be talking about rituals. Thank you so much for listening and have a wonderful rest of your week. We've created a new podcast for you called Growing in the Old Ways. On this podcast, we will be talking to various members of the pagan community, locally, nationally, and even internationally. Next week, it's all about them days. Cynthia and Howard will be talking to Kenn Day. So this should be a real fun time. They're not actually related to one another, but it's going to be great. You guys really should tune in for that. It should be a lot of fun. Anyway, I hope you're all having a wonderful week, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
And now it's time for It Makes You Think by Cynthia Day. Subjects that are sufficiently complicated enough to give one pause, just enough to make you think. Hi, and thank you for turning into podcast 30 for It Makes You Think. This is Cynthia Day and my friend Fur. Say hi, Fur.
Hi, Fur.
And today's podcast is going to be on Wonders of the Moon. We thought we'd do a podcast about the moon, its phases, and how people react or don't react to it, and the history. And we think that we found some interesting things. So to start, where should we start?
I don't know. There's a lot of information there.
That's true. But we can start with the ancestors. Way back when?
Yeah. So the ancestors of, centuries ago, they were fascinated by the moon and the stars and everything in
the sky.
The sun and the moon.
Mm-hmm. And they came to rely on the regularity of the moon. I remember that much.
Yeah. And the moon was often seen as a female. It was attached to, they saw it as a part of fertility. They saw it as a link to females' cycles,
mm-hmm.
The menstrual cycles and stuff.
Yeah, I'm here to tell you, it was true for me. I'm past that time now, but when I was during that time, every full moon was my time. And I was like clockwork. Exactly 28 to 29 days. The cycle of the moon is actually 29.5 days, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've seen that. Yeah. But, it's actually where we do get the word months from, is derived from the word moon.
Mm-hmm.
Because the moon has been so regular and stuff, and you can expect the full moon to be anywhere between like the 29th through the 3rd of the month. Yeah, because the next full moon falls on the 2nd.
Oh, okay.
September. It's usually around the last of the month through maybe the first few days of the next month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Unless you have a blue moon, and that can throw it off.
Yeah.
Blue moon being the second full moon within a month.
Yeah. Every blue moon, yeah. Once in a blue moon, that's what the saying was.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, and for centuries, they there was, what do you call it? They were in awe of, the different lunar
the phases.
Occurrences.
Yeah, the phases, yeah.
That's where a lot of superstition and a lot of, what do you call it? And they had the red moons, the blue moons, the harvest moons.
Yep.
And a lot of mythology was based around lunar occurrences.
Yeah, I remember that in a lot of cases they named the moons depending on what was going on agriculturally or in wildlife.
Yeah.
Because there was one moon that comes when the sturgeon are running. That's a particular type of fish.
Yeah.
And it's called the sturgeon moon.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a pink moon that comes around in May because in a certain area of, I think either Britain or maybe even America now, because we have some of the same flowers, pink phlox would, which is a flower, would bloom, and it's pink. And you would see it everywhere, and that's why they called it the pink moon. Yep.
Okay. That's cute.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember some of the other ones offhand, and I can't remember at the moment. But there's 3 harvest moons for August, September, and October.
Yeah, I remember the October. It's
This year there's going to be 2 full moons in October. The last one on the 31st, and I believe it's a super moon. It's a blue moon, and it's Halloween, or Samhain for those of us that are pagan.
Yes.
So that's going to be quite an event, especially for the temple.
Oh, yeah. I bet so.
Yeah, we'll either have a Zoom event or if we're allowed and I doubt that we'll be allowed to have people in the temple by October because I don't think this COVID thing is beaten yet. But it would be great because before we had plans to have a blowout celebration on the 31st of October, but that's definitely up in the air. But we'll do what we can on Zoom. But yeah, blue moon in October on Halloween. That's going to be exceptional.
Yeah. But the blood moon was often, in some cases, it was considered, people were afraid of the full moons, especially when they were different colors.
Yeah.
It was... I don't know. To some degree, I see it as somewhat of a superstition because, anytime you do have a full moon, you are going to have heightened energies and stuff, and there's more stuff going on. But sometimes if you're looking for something to go wrong, you will see it. Whatever you look for, you will see it. So I don't know. I've heard lots of ER doctors and nurses tell me that there's a lot more activity on a full moon.
Oh, they swear by it. A lot of them swear by it.
Yeah, and police officers
and fire departments.
But I don't know if it's so much the occurrence or the fact that people will see the full moon and get more active on those nights, or if it's just merely that more stuff happens on full moons. People do get that's where you get lunatic from.
Yeah.
They believe that these people were moon crazy, or, the moon affected their mentality so much that they would have, and it did actually kind of affect the word mania too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I should say, because did I talk about bipolar patients in the moon as of yet?
Not.
Well, it's odd because I happen to be bipolar. And back when I was not medicated for it, I remember one particular full moon where to me it just seemed like it was too friggin' bright. I couldn't stand it. I was in the midst of an episode and it was irritating to me. It was so irritating that even when I closed my eyes, I could still envision the moon in all its brightness.
Yeah, you probably got hyper-focused on it.
Yeah, I was probably hyper-focused on it at the time. But it definitely had an effect on me when I was in that state. And it stated that a significant source of nocturnal illumination back before we had all this light pollution that we have in modern times. Street lights and everything. Back when the moon was the brightest thing in the sky, it could affect the sleep-wake cycle of people. And for people back then who had bipolar or other mental maladies, if they were susceptible to sleep deprivation caused by having a full moon, it would have been sufficient to induce mania or hypomania in susceptible people, or maybe even seizures in patients with seizure disorders. But that's just not the case now, because there's so much light pollution that even on a full moon night, it's never going to be as bright as it was to people back when we didn't have the civilization that we have right now.
Yeah. Because I remember growing up where I did out in the country and stuff, it did seem a lot brighter. And my kids, when they visit my mom way out in yonder, they always think that the stars are bigger. The moon is bigger and stuff. Well, it does seem that way because there's nothing out there. If you have 2 or 3 houses on the street, then there's no pollution.
You lived in a dark area. I forget what they call that. There's a name for that where there's hardly any light pollution.
It's called rural America.
Rural America. Okay, yeah, we'll call it that. But that was in Lower Michigan, somewhere around there. I remember you talking about it. But yeah, there's a lot of people that believe that things are caused by the moon. Yeah. I mean, I can list a number of nurses that I know that are like, oh God, here comes the full moon. I better pack an extra lunch. It's going to be overtime. And police officers get leery because they're like, okay, the lunatics are going to start coming out from the walls. Yeah. And it could be simply because of film and everything. Movies have almost but worship the whole idea of a full moon, and they've made it out to be something. So people, like you said earlier, have this expectation. Like in the movie Practical Magic, 1998 film, Sandra Bullock's character was writing a letter to her sister, Nicole Kidman's character. And they had a thing about seeing a ring around the moon being a portent of negative happenings. And in the letter it says, sometimes I feel there's a hole inside of me, an emptiness that at times seems to burn. I think if you lifted my heart to your ear, probably you could hear the ocean. And the moon tonight, there's a circle around it, a sign of trouble not far behind. I have this dream of being whole, of not going to sleep each night, wanting. But still sometimes when the wind is warm and the crickets sing, I dream of a love that even time will lie down and be still for. I just want someone to love me. I want to be seen. I don't know. Maybe I've had my happiness. I don't want to believe it, but there's no man, only that moon. So yeah, that was a powerful moment in the movie when she was fearing for the fact that she would not find love. And the fact that she saw a ring around the moon made her feel like, oh, not only that, but other bad things are going to happen. So people have a lot of superstitions around the moon. But
some of it comes from folklore tales of old people and songs and stuff. It's not just modern day movies and stuff. It's generations,
yeah. And way back when, thinking about happenings with the moon, like eclipses. Like if you were saying that if there was a battle way back in the day before light pollution.
Yeah. You see a solar eclipse or something during the midst of battle or anything, everybody would stop.
Yeah.
And amazement, and they didn't know how to react. It actually would halt a battle. They would stop, and they thought the gods were talking to them.
Yeah, a lunar eclipse in the middle of the night, and all of a sudden you can't see during a full moon. Oh man, that had to have been scary.
Well, it's not only that, but the sailors, the people in the seas, they would use that for signs of, where they were going, so area of direction and stuff. They traveled by the stars and moon. Mm-hmm. And it would be confusing. I could see how that would be scary. Mm-hmm. They have it all of a sudden disappear, or the sun fall, the sky go dark.
Yeah. It affected the animals too. There's a lot of animals that they mate, procreate, and gestate and birth according to phases of the moon sometimes. And I know a lot of plants do. I mean, you have a sunflower that blooms during the day and literally is heliotropic because it follows the sun all day long. The plant actually turns and faces the sun, the flower that is. And then you have the moonflower that only blooms during the moon. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's lunotropic, I guess you would call it, and follows the moon around. I have no idea. But I know that it closes up by morning. And I just thought
it's like the morning glory. It's only
the opposite, right? And I think they're probably fertilized by moths instead of bees and things, because that's when flowers open, and moths only fly at night. Mm-hmm. I don't know if moths feed on pollen or nectar or anything. I kind of doubt it, but I don't know. Then there's the tides that are caused not only by the moon, but the position of the moon and the sun around the earth. Yeah. And people came to depend on that as well. Yeah. That's really important for a lot of people that live near the shores, because you have to know when the tides are coming in. You don't want to be caught in the midst of that when they come in. But a lot of this stuff is seen as illusory, because there's like this perception that people have that people will recall events better than events that don't happen. You know what I mean? It's like if it happens on a full moon, people will remember it. But if you have a full moon where nothing happens, people don't remember that. And so that tends to feed into this belief that the full moon actually causes things. When in actuality, because we expect it, sometimes I think we cause the things. Yeah. I also wanted to kind of get into the pagan aspect of moons. And because I'm Wiccan, the moon phases are important. There's eight main phases. The new moon, waxing moon, first quarter, waxing gibbous, full moon, waning gibbous, third quarter, and waning moon. Mm-hmm. And the cycle starts, of course, with a new moon. And it starts where the sun is behind the moon and lighting the side facing away from the earth. Yeah. And then you get to the waxing moon, where it's illuminated on the right-hand side as the sun slowly starts to move from its place behind the moon. And it follows all the way around until you get to the full moon. Then you get to the waning moons when it starts passing on the other side. Yeah. Yeah. So, and there's all kinds of things that are attributed to each of the phases. An example, the new moon is seen as a time for new beginnings, setting intentions. It's the start of a brand new lunar cycle, so it's a perfect time to make plans and decide what you want to achieve over the next 29 days. Skipping over the waxing moon, you could go to the waxing gibbous just before a new moon. And a lot of people aren't familiar with the gibbous, but like with the waxing gibbous, it follows the first quarter, and it leaves just a slither of dark moon left unseen. It's one step away from being full power at full moon. It's a time when it's just one phase away from the full moon, and it's time to really hone in on your intentions, goals, and actions. And to make sure you're paying attention to all the details and staying mindful about what is happening both externally and internally. We get over to the full moon, and this is when it is thought that the full moon goddess is at her full power, and that we can tap into her energy to help us manifest or gain insight into our powers. Manifestation and adding extra power to your intentions. It's a time for doing rituals and spells. Not that the new moon is not also a time to do rituals and spells, but it's a time of a particular kind for manifesting things. Cleansing crystals and tarot cards and things like that. But I think one of the interesting aspects of the moon is the new moon. And a lot of people see the new moon as the dark goddess or the crone aspect of the triple goddess of Mother, Maiden, and Crone. But the crone can also appear as the maiden and as the mother and as the crone. Because the dark goddess is the way of the mirror of truth and reflection. It's all about clarity. She's wild and free, in spirit and in body. And is like Kali Ma, who separates us from our illusions and false truths. She's like the light in the shadows. She is said, is at the end of our journeys and spiral dances. She is the one who greets us on the other side of this lifetime. And as the Dark Maiden, one can learn the freedom that comes from being owned by no one. And the Dark Maiden is the one who teaches us to love and enjoy our sexual sides in a world that seeks to harm this aspect of women. Then there's the Dark Mother. While always acting in the best interest of one's higher self, she teaches the lesson of tough love. Kali Ma, again with her sword, severs ego and fantasy to allow clearness of mind and spirit. She helps us change, but it's never a mild transition. And sometimes we need that. Yeah, sometimes we need a spiritual clue by 4 upside the head. And the Dark Mother will provide that. I can just see her, Didn't I tell you not to go over there? But try me again. Just try me again. I can just see the Dark Mother being like that. And then whack, spiritual clue by 4 up against the head. And you find yourself in a transition.
And sometimes you need that rough transition, like ripping the Band-Aid off.
Exactly.
Sometimes that is necessary in order to spur life again.
Yeah. Sometimes it's necessary to really open your eyes. To really let you see what's really there. There was a saying that someone said to me one time that, and I think it goes something like, your confusion is only at the level that your ego doesn't want you to see something. And Kali Ma would rip that away so that you could see what your ego may be hiding about yourself. Because the Dark Mother and the new moon, that's a time of introspection, of shadow work.
Yes.
And it's a powerful almost 3 days, because there's almost 3 days of new moon. There's also almost 3 days of full moon. And so during that dark time, it's
time to retreat and recharge. Reboot.
Yes. Reboot, recharge, retreat, and begin to start something new.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that'd be about the time for a spiritual clue by 4. Mm-hmm. You can tell I love that thought, because it's hit me before. I've been hit with a spiritual 2x4. I've had my eyes opened, and not liked what I've seen and had to move on from it, you know? And so I'm just here to say.
Sometimes that's what you need.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's because you don't want to look at it. You don't want to see it for what it is. And you have to take the blindfold off. The blinders have to come out. And you have to deal with it.
Yeah. That's why it's so important, I think, in paganism and maybe especially in Wicca, because I am Wiccan, to realize that dark and light is all a part of the same continuum. It's a circle. And you need the dark as much as you need the light. You need that introspection as much as you need that celebration at the full moon's part. You know, we need the dark parts of ourselves that sometimes we disown. We need those parts of ourselves to be whole. And sometimes it takes shadow work to go within and recapture that part of self and come to peace with it, you know, and be more a whole person for it. That's the purpose of shadow work, is to reintegrate yourself with yourself on a positive basis.
Because just because it's dark doesn't mean it's bad. You need the darkness to see the light, to appreciate it.
Yeah. And you need the light to appreciate the darkness. Yeah.
Yeah. You're not perfect. Nobody's perfect.
No. And some of our best qualities may be hidden in the darkness of ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, it takes pulling them out. And like stubbornness, for one. Some people look upon stubbornness as being a bad thing. But if you're going for a goal, if you're trying to manifest something, you got to pull out your stubbornness and stick to it. So that becomes a very good thing. It's just how you use it.
Stubbornness.
Oh, no, no, of course, you wouldn't know stubbornness at all.
But you don't learn anything if your life is all roses and rainbows. No, you don't learn grit through that.
You don't learn how strong you are until you have to find out.
Yeah. And I've had to learn that several times. And I think a lot of people are learning that now. Especially with the challenges we've had this year.
Oh God, the challenges in these unprecedented times have been, well, unprecedented.
Yeah. I'm just waiting on the zombies. I
know. I'm waiting on the aliens. They're talking about lizards now. I'm just waiting on the aliens to come out and show the face. You know? I don't know what else is going on. You know, zombies next, you know, aliens. And I mean, we've got like murder hornets coming, and then there's the jellyfish and everything. I'm just like, I don't know what's next. 2020 is like putting everybody through the ringer.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But getting back to the moon, you need to have the dark parts, and you need to have, it helps everything balance.
Yeah. It's important to balance out your magic too, because you need positive magic as much as you need negative magic. It's just that you don't want to go against a person's will in magic.
Yes.
That is something that I believe in. Do not violate another's will, not even in magic. You know, and because if you do, you're changing something for that person in their journey that can't be redone. It can't be lived over. You've now changed something, and it may not be for the better. And that becomes your responsibility. You know?
I don't believe in that either. I don't like to manipulate things just because I want this, but it's going to highly affect somebody else's will or well-being.
Yeah, I don't believe in doing that either.
Because humans are naturally emotional creatures. So you will have ill thoughts. You will have, wants and needs and desires and stuff. But the thing is that you're not always going to get what you want. And you have to accept that. But trying to manipulate forces or things to get what you want just because you want it, and you might not need what you want.
That's true. That's true. That might be a very interesting next program to do for It Makes You Think, is ethics.
I don't believe in hexes. I don't believe in love spells and all that stuff. No.
Well, it's kind of like this. It's like if you're going to do a love spell, you kind of have to do it on yourself, not on the other person. Because what you do with a love spell is you make yourself into a person that other people want to be with. You're not affecting anyone else. You're only affecting yourself. You're trying to manifest within yourself a draw so that other people will be drawn to you. But you're not making them fall in love with you. That would be a violation of will. You're just wanting to have a sign that says, hey, I'm here if anyone's interested. And to have that be, loud so that people can see it. So yeah, that would be an interesting next program if we can maybe do that next on ethics in paganism. But I think for now, we've strayed a bit from our original purpose here, but I think we've given people a bit to think about. Mm-hmm. And that's what we do when It Makes You Think. We hopefully make you think. And so we'll say goodbye now. Say goodbye, Fur.
Goodbye, Fur.
All right. And thank you for tuning in to It Makes You Think. We'll see you all in the next 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye.
You are listening to the Pagan Pathways Temple Broadcast Network. And now it's time for Conversation Corner with the Gladstones, here on PPT Presents.
Hi, this is Diana Gladstone.
Hi, this is Nancy Gladstone.
And welcome to our Conversation Corner. Today we're going to talk about rituals.
And how do you do them, and what do they mean to you?
Mm-hmm. So, my first experience with like a major public ritual was when we first started attending Pagan Pathways Temple.
Which was when?
Oh God, 6 years ago, 5 years ago? 5 years ago now. And it was the first time I've ever gone to a ritual that was pre-written out. And what I mean by that is we saw people with little pieces of paper that they used to help call the quarters. The high priest and priestess read from, I don't know if we want to call it a script or an outline, or they had things on paper.
Read from a format. How about that?
Okay, read from a format. And it was quite different than anything I had thought of as a ritual beforehand, because my background, my training is everything is free form, free talk. The ritual consists of the words and that as the divine moves you. So it was my first time seeing something that was pre-planned and something more
ceremonial.
Akin to more ceremonial magic.
Yeah, me too. Because I'm shaman. In my shamanic practice, I don't even have a mesa. I don't need a fire. I don't even need to speak out loud. I just sit on my bed, typically, cross-legged, and just think it. And
off on a journey she goes.
In a way, it happens.
And then I have to patiently wait till she comes back so I can start talking to her. Because talking to her while she's on journey is basically like talking to the wall. I get about as much response.
You get no response.
Like I said, talking to the wall.
Good thing you can see colors, because you can see when I'm not there.
Yep. But So the very first ritual we went to at Pagan Pathways Temple was quite moving to me. So even though at the time it was led by Stan and Geraldine, it was how they talked, the emotion they evoked, and just the sense of the circle was quite powerful to me.
They made you feel like they were talking to you personally and no one else was in the room.
And you could feel, as they called in the elements, as they called in the god and the goddess, you felt that presence, or at least I did.
Yep. In the room. Yep.
And so for me, that has always been the standard I've kind of measured public rituals against. Does it have that feeling of power and inclusion? But, the other day we were talking with a group of friends and started talking about, what exactly is ritual? Do you have to have that formula ritual sandwich, that lovely formula written out in Uncle Bucky's great big blue book that is as boring to read as anything I've ever read in my life?
Do you need pomp and circumstances?
Do you need to have an altar? Do you need to have all those candles and all those statues and symbols?
Do you need all the tools? Do you need any tools?
And the more we started talking, the more and more people were saying, while having those sets the stage for public ritual, very few people actually use them or use all of them in their private practices. For example, typically when I'm doing a working or a casting, I'll cast circle. I'll call in my elements and I'll call in the deities, but I rarely set up an altar. I may light a candle. I certainly don't light 6. My mother-in-law would kill me. She'd say I'm making the house too smoky.
And we never do the Great Rite symbolic.
No, it just sounds funny when 2 girls do it. But that's my own personal opinion.
Yeah.
So if you disagree with me, please, if you feel the need to write a letter, go right ahead. This is Diana talking. I'm the one who doesn't agree with it.
Just when 2 girls do it.
Just when 2 girls do it. But the other day, Nancy and I were having a bonfire out back. And, we did not set up the fire with a magical intent.
Well, I started the fire, so it automatically has a magical intent.
Well, okay, but we didn't cast circle. We didn't call in quarters and all that. We were just sitting around the bonfire and talking, and just, I felt the spirit move me to kind of do a private surrendering into the flames of things that were bothering me, things I decided to feed to the fire and ask the gods and goddesses in the universe to cleanse me of. And go ahead.
Nope.
And for me, that was a short, quick ritual. I quickly dropped into that mindset that I was going to do magic, that I was going to connect to the universe, and the universe was going to help me do something.
Yep, she picked up a stick.
I picked up a stick. I talked to the stick. I told the stick what everything it was going to hold for me. And then, while my wife wasn't looking so she couldn't yell at me for messing with her fire, I threw it into the fire.
I'd let you throw things in the fire.
Occasionally, she is the fire master. Usually she's afraid I'm going to topple her triangle pyramid thingamajiggy and mess up the flames. So I make sure it's a small stick so I don't get yelled at.
That is true. I'm a fire hog.
She is. But for me, that was a ritual. I also I'm a bit of a water person, so when I get really, really mad, it doesn't matter if I already took a shower earlier that morning. If I'm really, really mad, or upset, you're going to see me take another shower, because I use that and I envision the water washing all the negativity, all the all the anger, all the dark emotions that I don't want to keep off my body, down and I can watch them swirl down the drain and go off somewhere else to be cleansed.
Yep. And some people think like doing dishes is a ritual because they're cleansing their dishes. Other people say drinking their morning cup of coffee.
They jokingly laugh that it is their worship to the goddess Caffeina. That they have to have that to start the day.
So what are some of the things that you do that are ritualistic that you never thought of as ritual before? It may surprise you.
I know when I first started practicing, I had and still at times have very horrible shielding. So I used to have one of my teachers kept telling me to kind of pick something that I see a lot of, and that every time I see it, I should remind myself to check my shields to make sure my shields were up. So for me, it was leaves because, as a person who has a lot of tree of lives, I have a lot of trees with leaves all around me, or just, trees and trees branches. So she said every time I saw a leaf or a tree to check my shields to make sure that they were up, until they kind of became habitual.
Well, it wasn't so much up to make sure the holes were closed.
Okay, just because I had a giant hole on the left side the entire time.
Yes. Yeah.
My shields have gotten better. Thank you very much.
Yes, they have.
All right.
But I still keep one around you 24/7 anyways.
Yeah, I know, because yours are better than mine. But we digress from talking about rituals.
Yes, we did.
So when it comes to ritual, there's 3 major things that I think you need to include in every ritual. And that is your statement of intent or your purpose, the energy you're going to put with it, and the magical casting you're going to do. Does that sound about right to you?
That sounds about right to me, yes.
And so statement and purpose, you don't have to necessarily state it out loud, because believe me, the universe can hear your thoughts too. But I personally think there's power in words, so I like having the spoken element in most of my rituals. Even when, like I was talking about taking the shower to cleanse the uck, I'm talking to the uck during the shower and telling it to get the hell off my body. So your statement can be anything from I am setting my intentions, I am setting my will that this shall be done.
That's it. It can be that short. It doesn't need to be a monologue.
It's as simple as me telling the stick, you're going to carry away my fears, my insecurities, and my worries. All of them are in you now, and into the fire you go.
And mine is, this is going to happen. ...
Energy for, you need something to help, excuse me, push your intent out further. So energy, you can either call in an element to help you carry that message. I call the element of air to come and carry my words upon the wind to the universe for those to hear. I call on the element of fire to strengthen my will, that my will be done.
And me being a shaman and I work directly with Mother Earth, I just say, Mother Earth, please make this happen. Mother Earth, please help me. And Mother Earth knows which element or elements I need to get the job done.
If you're working a public writ, it's important that you get everyone's energy moving in the same direction and moving towards the same thing. That's why a lot of public writs utilize chants, music, dance, movement, stuff like that.
To get the energy flowing.
And then there's the actual casting, the forming of the magic. For me, it's something, I'm a very visual person, so I see the energy and my intent as 2 different pieces, and I'm using my own personal magic to wind them together to send them off into the universe.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. Some people just, it's that added oomph of will, or some people believe that it's like using a specific herb or set of herbs or candle magic or anything else. But it really is how you have to have something of a visualization or something of a shaping. For me, that's the casting.
That's why I
part.
like when we get like trinkets and stuff from rituals. It gives me something physically
that she can focus
on.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, she's a much more tactile person. So when you give her something, she's better able to do that where, excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. For me, I envision a lot. That's also why I do a lot of guided meditations, and Nancy does a lot of work with things.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Which is why we have trinkets all over this house. But again, we digress. But however
They're not all mine.
I didn't say they were all yours. I just said they were all over the house. I didn't say they were all yours. But anyways, folks, basically rituals can be anything you want. They can be as ceremonial as you want, or they can be as simple as you want. Whatever feels right to you, whatever helps you feel that power and that connection to the divine. If it feels right, do it. If it feels funny, don't do it.
And they can also be in any room of the house or outside. You don't need a special ritual room or a magic room or sacred space. It can be.
I've done them in my car. I've done them at my office desk in the middle of the 10-story tower I work at. Just because I needed some patience and some clearing of some bad mojo, because somebody just left my office after spewing an emotional volcano.
And my bed is my favorite spot for me.
Mm-hmm.
Or outside, anywhere.
You put this woman near water, she's going to go into meditative stance. I'm telling you right now. For me, it's walking amongst the trees. Even just a hike through the woods can be a ritual to me because I'm communing with my gods then.
Yep.
So, this is just us saying, don't let the word ritual scare you. Don't think it has to be high ceremonial magic. It can be simple magic. It can be whatever you need it to be. All right. Well, that's the Gladstones for this Conversation Corner. We hope you enjoyed listening to us, and we hope we didn't go off track too much.
And blessed be.
Blessed be. This episode of PPT Presents is brought to you by Pagan Pathways Temple. Pagan Pathways Temple is a 501c3 out of beautiful Madison Heights, Michigan. We offer classes, both online and in person, community outreach, ritual space, and a library available to our members. To find out more, or to become a member, please go to paganpathwaystemple.org or patreon.com/paganpathwaystemple. Pagan Pathways Temple, growing in the old ways where all paths are open.
This PPT Presents broadcast is brought to you by TechWitch Detroit. TechWitch Detroit for all your IT needs. Please visit us on the web at techwitchdetroit.com. TechWitch Detroit, we can help.